Hello, colleagues. I know you've been hearing from me a lot lately. I've been hearing a lot from you too, and I'm very grateful for your honest feedback. In my view, more communication is better than less, so please continue to speak up. I'm reaching out now to touch base again on matters related to the board investigation. It's become very clear to me that I didn't communicate very well on these matters last week. Above all, I want you all to know that I care hugely about the values we hold as an organization. I care about integrity beyond reproach, and I care about making TNC a safe, welcoming, and inclusive organization. And it means a lot to me how much all of you care as well. I'm still learning how best to communicate on these topics. Thank you for being patient with me, and thank you even more for holding me to a very high standard. I want to now address directly the matter of Brian McPeak's resignation. On Monday of last week, I was briefed by our board of directors and the law firm that conducted the review on the findings of the investigation. You'll recall that I was recused from the investigation and that I had no say in the findings. The next day, I shared the full, unedited contents of the report with you. These experts and the board concluded, among other things, that Brian should not be terminated. Of course, this conclusion informed my thinking, but the final decision was ultimately my responsibility. I took this responsibility very seriously. After much careful consideration, I decided to follow the board's recommendation that Brian continue his duties. After making this decision, I had many serious discussions across the organization. I spoke with people at all levels of TNC from very different units and regions. I learned a lot during these conversations, and I very much respect everyone's input. I don't take this kind of feedback for granted. I know it's not always easy to give such input to me. The fact that colleagues were willing to speak up and tell me what they thought is a part of our culture that I really do value and respect. And so, after much more deliberation, I talked with Brian and decided that the best way for TNC to move forward was for him to resign. I believe this decision is in the best interest of the organization. Now let me shift gears and give you an update on steps we are taking immediately to help strengthen our organization. The report to the board from the outside law firm provided specific recommendations to make sure TNC is leading on how we manage issues of sexual harassment or other improper work conduct, and how we ensure a culture in which all have equal opportunities to succeed. Many of you provided very good suggestions as well. So, starting immediately, we're changing how cases of sexual harassment claims without corroborating evidence are reviewed. These cases will now include credibility determinations. Our Ethics and Compliance Office was already making this change, and it's now fully in place. We're committing to more robust and comprehensive investigations into anonymous claims. The Ethics and Compliance team will be transparent in how this is done to help everyone understand and trust our processes. I should also note that the reporting form for the hotline was updated to be more user-friendly and to make it easier to provide an anonymous report. Our Ethics and Compliance team will now report allegations of wrongdoing to the full board of directors, not just the board audit committee. We're starting this new practice next week during next week's board meeting. Further, we plan for all claims against senior colleagues to be reported by the Ethics and Compliance team to the board immediately, no longer only during board meetings. We're discussing this with the audit committee next week, and we expect the change will be implemented quickly. We'll also begin revamping our trainings to ensure that everyone at TNC fully understand their workplace rights and responsibilities. The Ethics and Compliance team is also putting together detailed information on how investigations are conducted and reported. This information will be available to the entire organization and included in the next round of compliance training. Finally, and very importantly, we're also discussing with the board next week changes to sexual harassment policies and SOPs to clarify the kind of behavior we expect of everyone at TNC, not only to comply with laws, but to comply with our values. We expect to make those changes by the end of June. Now let me shift gears and say a few words about what we are calling our Culture Initiative. The team's been making good progress here. First, we've launched a program we're calling Let's Talk these are structured discussions about TNC culture. The team is providing guidance for leaders managing these dialogues to ensure that the conversations provide specific and actionable ideas. A number of these sessions have already taken place, and the feedback about the sessions has been very positive. We now plan to roll out these sessions very energetically across the organization. Our goal, it's ambitious, is to ensure that every employee has the opportunity to participate in one of these sessions by the end of July. We're going to work really hard to make that happen. At these sessions, we'll be collecting everyone's input so that we can learn as much as possible. I encourage all of you to participate in these dialogues. I've also asked the team to reach out to other organizations and companies that have undertaken similar broad culture initiatives. They've had extensive conversations that are helping shape our next steps. At the same time, a number of other good actions are underway. I'll note some. Our HR team is working hard to ensure full consistency and accountability for complying with all of our hiring and recruiting SOPs. Also, we'll soon launch an anonymous suggestion box so anyone can send feedback on cultural matters or other HR issues. And the HR team is doing a deep dive on our annual review process. This is a priority for me. We want to determine what needs to change here and improve it. Looking ahead, we'll be meeting with the board next week to review what we've done to date and to carefully consider our plans for next steps. We anticipate after the board meeting, we'll issue an RFP to select and hire an outside advisor. Here's what we expect that outside consultant will help us do. First, we expect we'll use surveys or focus groups to fully assess our culture, our relevant policies and procedures, alignment with our values. Second, the consultant will make recommendations on next steps. We expect these to be in 5 areas. 1, diversity, equity, and inclusion. 2, HR. 3, ethics and compliance. 4, people management. And 5, trust, transparency, and values. Third, the consultant will then help us design a work plan for strengthening the areas in need of improvement. We'll know much, much more about this very soon, how it all shapes up, and we'll keep you posted. There will be plenty of opportunities for everyone to get involved. Finally, next week is our annual Volunteer Leadership Summit, where hundreds of our trustees will come together to discuss how TNC can do even more to further our mission. I'm always very encouraged to meet our volunteer leaders from all over the world who care so deeply about protecting nature and wanting to see TNC succeed. You can be sure that we will be discussing all of these matters with trustees as well, and I very much look forward to their input on how we can further strengthen our organization and move forward in a positive way. Thank you again for your input, feedback, and suggestions as we work on building an even stronger and more inclusive TNC.